Now we are going to discuss the second part of the second constructivism, Piaget's theory or concepts of adaptation and disequilibration. According to Piaget, reasoning and logic are the essence of intelligence, which he considered as human capacity to deal with the surrounding environment through the organization and reorganization of experiences. So what he thinks is that intelligence is the capacity which enables a human mind or a human being to organize and reorganize the experiences around him. But what are the vital components of intelligence are reasoning and logic. To be able to reason out things, to be able to see the facts or the logical based information. The ability to acquire any cognitive content is always related to child's stage of intellectual development. So basically there's a developmental process of intellectualism in terms of developing the understanding of the experiences. So any content, any mental information which is given to child or is expected a child to understand is related to the intellectual development of the child's mind. He believes that human functioning relies on the principle of adaptation. Adaptation is the process of learning from the environment and adjusting to changes within it. So basically adaptation. Information that is available around you, you incorporate that information, you adapt it from the environment, and then you make adjustment of that information or the changes that it has. Now that adjustment is achieved with the process of assimilation and accommodation. Adaptation is then achieving a balance between assimilation and accommodation. So adjustment is based on adaptation, and the purpose of the adaptation is to reach a state of equilibrium where there is a complete sense of balance or sense of calmness in terms of the existing knowledge and the external or new information that has been received, assimilated, and accommodated. Now let's look at developing and maintaining the equilibrium, how we are going to do that. There are 4 stages which need to be understood to develop our understanding. If you look at it by scheme, it is the mental pattern, operations, and a system, a complete understanding of a real world. And then you have the experiences in the real world. Interaction, that is the interaction mode, is based or lead to disequilibrium and adaptation, and the role played by assimilation and accommodation are pivotal in terms of maintaining the equilibrium. How we are going to understand that? Let's first look at the scheme. Scheme is the existing knowledge and existing mental pattern, operations, and system, where a 2-year-old child believes that dogs are 4-legged animals with fur. Now that is the existing information a child has of a dog. Comes across an experience that the child sees a cat and says, "Look at the doggy." Now disequilibrium is what happens when the parent says, "No, that's not a doggy, that's a cat." So here comes the imbalance, where imbalance in terms of the existing information the child has based on the schema and the new information that comes in. So the child assimilates and accommodates that information and understands that the definition of dog changes. A dog has 4 legs, is furry, and does not say meow, which is basically a cat's characteristics, or that's how cats speak. So basically we see that the disequilibrium is the state when the existing information that is there in one's mind is disturbed or is confused due to any new information that a child receives, and it is after adjusting and accommodating that information, the child adds this information to the existing schema and moves on, while the accommodation is the process which facilitates a child to assimilate and gets the understanding of this new experience. According to Piaget, there are 4 key elements that lead to disequilibrium and thus enable learning. We need to understand that disequilibrium is not something which is negative. Rather, it is a stage which motivates or which pushes a learner to move forward with new understanding of experiences or accommodating new information, making changes and modification in the existing schema. Now, there are 4 factors. Number 1, emotions, which creates feelings and excite and motivates learning. So emotions have to be triggered through any new information. Experience, which exposes children to a variety of stimuli. Variety of new objects are exposed, children are exposed to, and that motivates learner to experiment and develop a new understanding of the experiences. Natural maturation, that enables learning through physical growth of mental structures. So biological maturation or biological development is another key factor which enables learners to learn. Social interaction with parents, other children, and eventually teachers, which enables both stimulation and feedback. So this kind of interaction acts as a stimulation, and when learners perform, they get the feedback from all these factors in the environment, and based on that, this process of disequilibration leads to the new understanding of the experiences. Let's understand 2 more characteristics here in relation to accommodation and the state of disequilibrium or equilibrium. Accommodation, as we have seen, that it is the ability to change the cognitive constructivism of schemas to make meaning of surroundings. And this state, which is disequilibrium or equilibrium, refers to the stability or comfort that is achieved through accommodation and assimilation. Now, this part, which is egocentrism, refers to children's idea of what they think and how they believe that others identify or others believe. Children believe that others identify and believe and experience as the same way as they do. They do not recognize that others have different point of view. So they think that how they are thinking and behaving, others also behave and think in a similar manners. At this level, they do not consider that other peoples have different point of view. Function of language, according to Piaget, is basically in an adaptation for mental images. It is only to do with the representation of the mental images one has, but he did not consider that it performed a key role in the cognitive development. So which basically the previous cognitivists thought that language has a role to play. Vygotsky is the one psychologist who refers to this. But Piaget thinks that the only role language has is to provide the representation of the mental images, and language is used for description of internal pictures and experiences of the knowledge. To conclude, Piaget's idea of adaptation involves assimilation and accommodation, responsible for establishing equilibrium. It is the imbalance between the two that causes the disequilibrium, which is responsible for extra accommodation, which enables the learning process.